is in this to that. That's a good link to COVID to say it happened. It was bad, but it also creates some opportunities for the town that otherwise would not have existed to make some of these things happen.
Okay, then I will add a paragraph, but I think we can change it at the end of once we've got closer to the final version. Okay, so and then this table is slightly out of date now because I've just updated the master objectives. We'll go through that in a little bit, but that's just an update. And this thing is never going to work. I've tried to edit it, but it's not working. So I'm going to go back and just summarize in more traditional word form what the objectives and goals are.
We'll have to attach a pair of magnifying glasses with each copy of the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, free and acknowledgements at the end.
Wait a minute, did I see Ralph's name in the acknowledgements?
Well, yes, everyone.
That brief glimpse gave me chills.
I have no idea who any of these MAPC people are, so I'm sure
Ralph
they'll.
was the leader in 2008, figuratively speaking.
I think a couple of them showed up at the.
They were there. Yeah.
Joe was there. Yeah, I don't know who some of the other ones are, but whatever. I'm sure they can feel good about contributing to our master plan.
I'm fine with listing them, just as sort of blast from the past.
Okay. Good.
My one comment on the contributors, I'd switch out Michael Robbins for Debbie Demaria because we never saw Michael Robbins.
Let me just make a note. My brain is, what am I going to make a note? Okay. Sorry, just make it up. Okay. What do you want to do next, Mimi?
No more chapters that anyone wants to discuss?
I could do a quick update. After a fair amount of frustration, I finally got my hands on the latest copy of the school's strategic plan, which I think is going to be very helpful in terms of tying some of the language that I'd written into the initiatives that they have now officially endorsed. So I think that's a good connection to make. There's nothing, amazingly new or different there necessarily, but I think it's good to have that connection. And so I'm in the process of integrating that with what I've done most recently in terms of the chapter I've been working on. So progress, and Keturah, we miss her, but she's been very busy, obviously, with the school committee stuff. So
I don't envy anyone being on the school committee
crazy.
During a pandemic.
Well, I think the mascot thing is probably more troublesome than the pandemic, actually.
Oh, really?
They've been going crazy with the mascot stuff. Yeah, it is.
All kinds of fun stuff going on at the schools.
Right. The tomahawks are out, as they say.
I can just quickly show people what we have for economic development now.
Oh, sure. I actually have a comment on that chapter. So good.
And do we have the downtown zoning bylaw success in there now, or that to me is a good point to wire in.
Okay. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
This is chapter 4. So this is economic development. And this is a chapter that Julie Connolly provided some kind of good first good first pass at it in terms of the content, and then I've worked on it in the last few days, but with Mimi. So it follows the standard format, but the key for this chapter is, if you remember back in 2008, we had an economic development chapter and a villages chapter. And we said what we do is, because a lot of the villages recommendations this time round are about economic development, commercial diversity was our kind of banner headline. We've consolidated it into one chapter. So we start with the Vision Open House. There's we've got here a little summary of what we've done on villages and on the Route 9 corridor, which was the kind of core of a lot of the economic development chapter in 2008. Our active organizations are listed. And then we had quite a number of updated charts from the economic, but rather than include all of them, because I mean, it's all good data, but it's not quite all the same data source. So I think we just have to be a little bit careful there about using kind of multiple data sources. But what I've done is kind of framed it as economic constraints and opportunities to basically say, why it's trying to tell the story that says, why is this such an important opportunity to get commercial diversity in the downtown, but also the village? And it's basically, there's a demand for it and there's an opportunity to supply it as well. So you can read this. I'll post this on the shared drive so that everyone can read it. But
I have a comment on that summary of current conditions chapter.
Yeah.
Where it says the second paragraph, there have been relatively few non-residential development projects completed since 2008. There were.
Yeah, I made that up. I have no idea because I'm waiting. There's a little
I have 39 non-residential site plans that were approved since, so I didn't know what relatively few meant. So there have been.
No, I just made that up. It's okay. It's literally, I've got here a placeholder that says, are there any examples that could be added? So that's generally how I write some of this stuff. If I don't know the answer, I make it up and then change it when we get some facts. But that's great. Thank you, Mimi.
Like, wait a minute here.
No, good. So no, seriously, have you got a list of it, of the 39?
Yeah.
Send me the list. That'd be awesome. Because that does tell a better story. But we talk about commuting to work, where our workers live. We talk about employment levels. This is the kind of interesting chart around the employment base in Southborough, which tells a really good story that we don't have retail, we don't have any substantive kind of facilities in the town, which helps lead the story into the downtown initiative. So Julie and I talked about this, and what we've done is we've taken the downtown initiative out of the chapter on community, culture, and historic resources, and we've put it in here because I think, as I've kind of read through the other chapters again, it makes more sense to have the downtown in here as opposed to in sense of community. So what I'm going to do is kind of write a narrative about all the things we're doing that will drive sense of community and put that in that chapter so that we don't, because that's a very important theme for us, so we won't lose that. but I have indeed updated Julie's original draft to reflect the fact that we do have a downtown initiative, downtown district bylaw. So that's the section on downtown. There's a little section on our other villages that I've kind of crafted. There's a section on Route 9, and this is a section where Julie, I've asked Julie to go back and take a look at some of this because I think we need to kind of focus in on some of the goals there, but I'm asking her to do that. And then there's a section on tax revenue and funding. A couple of charts in there, some of the text, and then our goals and objectives. So we've got the downtown goal, we've got the villages goals, and then the Route 9 goal. So I think it feels like it's flowing quite nicely, but I'll post it in the meeting, in the prep file for this meeting, and then anyone can take a look and come back with comments.
Can I just make a comment about on the Route 9? And I'm sorry, I just as you're scrolling through, there's the Route 9 495 interchange project with Mass DOT, I think it's called, and I think it was scheduled for about 2024, but I think Carolyn Dykema came maybe last year or the year before and pulled it into 2022. I think it's coming up, and I think I know it's highly advertised when they're having meetings and things like that, so it might be something that the public would like to know about, but it will also hit sometime during, I believe, sometime during the next, hopefully the next 10 years. Is it something that could go in that chapter, or I don't know if anybody feels that that's of interest, but I know it's kind of interesting to me.
It's certainly worth noting, Debbie. I thought last I heard that the big one is the Pike and 495 interchange, which is why they did the Accelerate Bridge project this year to get that out of the way before the route, the 495 and Pike interchange was going to be redone. And I thought then the Route 9 was going to be after that one.
So maybe that's a 2024.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
lost track of it, so it would be good kind of to know that.
I think the Pike thing is 22, but I'm not positive. And I heard at one point much earlier that then the Route 9 495 was after that. But again, I'm not sure. And in fact, all bets are off on these things, I think, relative to the new federal infrastructure funding, which may well provide more money to accelerate some of these things potentially. So just to me, it's really hard to predict now in terms of everybody's scrambling for money and trying to accelerate projects, and there's a shortage of supplies and contractors, and so it's going to be a crazy few years here, I think, yeah. Unfortunately.
I do think the timeline is posted on the Mass DOT website. I mean, at one point I had been looking at it and stuff. I haven't been on there. I don't know what it says, honestly. I don't mind going on and taking a look.
It'd be good to look. Yeah, we could if you could follow up and send a note around.
Yeah, I mean, we have a recommendation in here that's kind of fairly generic. It says stay connected and actively participate in the Route 990, 495 state highway projects. So there is a reference there, but not that much detail, because I think at the time we weren't sure how much was going to affect us as a town. So, but yeah, we can definitely.
This discussion's making me, it's Kristen, reminding me of, kind of what's been happening on, lots of posts on South Road community sharing care about the noise, and people asking why we tried to get the noise barriers, those barriers that can go up along the Pike as part of this project. I think that's a great idea. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to know a lot about the process for getting them, but I wonder if is that an objective that we'd want to bake in somewhere.
Is that noise on the Pike generally, or noise from this construction project that hasn't ended yet?
It's the construction.
Well, that's the noise on the Sobo site right now, but I think you'd have a lot of people on the south side of town that would say it would be hugely beneficial regardless of construction going on. it's just these projects may present an opportunity to try to get them. Again, I don't know the process. Certainly can look into it, how some towns get those barriers. But I do think it would be beneficial to Southborough to do the same.
So Kristen, I can tell you in the Oregon woodland area, they had looked at the barriers. Wasn't too long after we had moved here. Mimi, you may remember this. The town had looked at it. It has to do with decibel levels and whatnot, and the town didn't meet the requirements for it. Now, maybe it's changed over time. I don't know. With the new road construction, I think it's going to quiet down a lot of the older noise that we had with the bridge itself. And every time
Walking over the bridge, yeah.
Yeah. An empty truck came over. There was huge bangs all night long. And I think that's going to alleviate some of this, but it's certainly something we can look into again. I can't imagine that the Pike would, Mass DOT would even look into doing the testing that's required until after the road work is complete anyway.
Yeah.
So, we can certainly ask the question, we can ask it from a Board of Selectmen level. And, see what they say. Again, it was tested years and years ago, maybe.
They should retest.
Yeah, no, we can certainly
it
ask the
doesn't hurt.
question. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can certainly ask the question.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
I
Yep,
read
no
at one
problem.
point that costs like $1 million a mile per side for
Yeah.
that stuff. And there's a long list of towns who have requested it. So it's a real challenge to find money to do it. But again, with the federal money, maybe that opens up some possibilities for doing more of that, at least in more populated areas along the Pike there. We've got 4 miles or something of the Pike in town. I can't remember the exact number, so it's not that long a distance.
Some days, Sam, it seems like there's at least 10 or 20 or maybe even 30.
Doesn't hurt to ask, though.
No, absolutely. We
Yeah.
can certainly, Sam, we can work on that from the selectmen side.
So is the downtown district still listed as a goal under this master plan, or are we crossing that out?
No, it's still in there. There's a lot of recommendations that are still, the goal is still there, and it's let me just hang on a second, let me pull this
Leave
up.
it there so we can check it off.
Well, you can,
Well, we referenced that the zoning bylaw passed, but that's, I think that that's not in itself going to make development. So, I
I
think
was just kidding. This committee is very
Well,
effective.
no, well, the other
One
goals
down.
in relation to that, but but like reaching out to other committees and doing design guidelines and all that stuff has actually already been done in the bylaw passed.
okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
With my
Okay,
glasses on.
stop it.
So it's just,
This is the summary.
we don't see that, we just see your menu screen.
Okay, hang on a minute. Oh, because I have to hit share. Does that work?
That works.
Okay. That's actually
By
quite,
the way, excuse me, I hate to interrupt, but I was just looking here at the DOT schedules from their website, and there's no date on the 495 Route 9 interchange. It's called design, and that's all it's specified.
What's it say for Pike 495?
Now there's pavement. That's called resurfacing.
Well, if it's not easy, that's okay. Let's keep going.
This is quite a detailed and fine thing here. I saw something here just a moment ago. Let me Westboro, Southborough improvements. All right. No. Let me continue to look. I'll get back to you.
Okay.
So like seek consensus for changes to
Yeah.
zoning regulations across
Yeah.
appropriate town boards, commission gain approval from town meeting. Check.
Yep.
Agree upon design guidelines. Check.
Check.
Has the planning board hasn't adopted those yet, have they?
We agreed upon them, yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, I can't even skip. Oh, here we go. Um,
And I guess 1.4 also, because that sort of all goes together.
Yeah,
okay, so 1.1 and 1.2, the ones that I've shaded in green are definitely done.
yeah.
1.3 is this kind of pale yellow because the wording tweaked slightly, but so have we finished that one?
Yeah.
So that is a good question. So do we want to just take them out and refer to them in the text? That's normally what I would propose for this.
I don't know. I think it's good to have a few completes in here.
It seems to be cheating them.
We're already ahead of 2008. Good work.
Well, there are a couple of others in the plan, like, there was a recommendation to update the hazard mitigation plan, and hey, it's happened. I
Yep.
mean, I take your point, Sam. I mean,
I
it's
don't feel
not,
bad about having some completes in there. I mean, I put out in the preface somewhere that, this started in 2018, 19, whatever. And as it evolved, things have been completed as we've been working in parallel to accomplish some of these things. So it's an
Yep.
ongoing work in progress here.
Makes sense to me.
okay, let me just have to make a note of these things, otherwise I'll never remember. I'm getting old.
You haven't seen anything yet, Judith.
What?
It gets far worse, far quicker.
So much.
Just trying to encourage you.
Yeah.
As
Great.
my father-in-law used to say, beats the alternative.
Sometimes not so clear.
I don't know.
Okay. I think, oh, yeah, so the ones in yellow are, this kind of paley yellow are, there's just a few tweaks to the language that Julie had in a text that I've incorporated into this, and a couple of new ones that we've added in there. But I think those.
So if we're going to leave 1.1, it's the downtown district. It's not the downtown village business district.
I thought I'd incorporated all of those changes, but I haven't. Yeah, I've
Yeah,
got.
on the version you sent to me yesterday, it says downtown district.
Tricky.
Mhm.
Version control, my nightmare. Okay. Let me just. Oh, my phone is frozen.
Sam, 2022.
Thanks.
So it's that 495 and 90,
Yeah.
2022?
Yeah.
I'll try
It's
to-
still in the design stage, but there's a completion of 2022. Well, whatever that means.
try to avoid that next year then.
Yeah.
Okay. So as we're here in this document, let's go backwards a little bit. So is that okay, Mimi? Can I talk about this?
Sure.
Okay, so
Oh, yeah.
let's just quickly run through. This is just a summary of goals and objectives. This gets put into the vision section. So there are a few updates to goals, objectives, and recommendations. We talked about the economic development ones. I know Tom is here, so I will reach out to him. Let me just flip down. There's, and I don't know, Sarah, you might know the reason for this, but there's actually in the housing goals and recommendations, there's a 5th goal that was added. I think it was added back in the spring around
Yes.
increasing moderate affordable housing.
Yes.
But there's only one recommendation on it, and it's a kind of a it's a bit of a kind of a passive recommendation around inventorying the number of units created. So
Yes.
maybe I'm being a bit picky here, but it feels as though it's kind of hanging out there a little bit. So I don't know
Yeah.
whether more recommendations associated with it, or if we could merge that recommendation into another goal.
And something more active would be good, certainly. more
Yeah.
aggressive. Maybe Tom has some thoughts.
I mean, yeah, I definitely, I can reach out to Tom to discuss, and then the Shopsy last meeting unfortunately had to be canceled. So we're trying to reschedule right now to coordinate for the first week in December. And so we can definitely discuss it then. But I think, there was definitely a lot of discussion within Shopsy about trying to increase housing stock, particularly for individuals at that sort of 80%, 50 to 80% AMI group and category. So I know that, we're working on the 5-year strategic spending plan with MAPC right now. So maybe, just completing that spending plan is something that we can put in, as a recommendation, because at least that will be kind of an in-depth look at how to create that type of housing. So that's just kind of shooting from the hip, my thoughts on that.
Okay, that'd be great if you can coordinate with
Sure,
Tom.
sure.
So this again, just a few changes in yellow. This is just a few updates that Kat did when she edited the open space chapter. So it's really good clarifying wording. So I don't think there's anything too major there. There is, the only other section I just wanted to put on the table here is under the circulation and transportation chapter, because we'd originally called it accessibility and connectivity, we had got a goal around individual accessibility. So we talk about basically the traffic infrastructure, we talk about transport, we talk about pedestrian, cycle access, sidewalks, which was one of our big themes. And then we have a 4th goal around the individual accessibility. And I just want to throw it out there. Does that feel like it's still the right place to have it, or should we think about putting that goal under the public services section, or maybe under the community section?
I'd vote for public services for that. I think it strikes me as more of access to town resources, services, etc. More than circulation. I don't know.
It kind of worked when we called the chapter accessibility and connectivity. It doesn't work so well when we talk about circulation and transportation.
Yeah, I guess I'm less focused on finding exactly the perfect place for it versus just having it represented appropriately somewhere in here. I think that's the first concern I have, which again, I think is a step up from the 2008 plan. So it being here is important. Where it fits, I'm less focused on, but I think it could go in the public facilities thing.
What do you think, Kathy?
Who was that? Who said, what was that?
I think she's muted. I don't know.
Did
I
you?
was asking Kat what she thought.
Oh, yeah, I think I like the idea of moving it to public services. And I agree with Sam that it's good to be in here, but I agree with your recommendation.
Okay. So that's the general notes. Now, okay. This is the first pass at suggesting who would be responsible for implementation. So if you remember, we said all along, implementation responsibility is really key because that's who we need to, one, get the kind of socialization and sign off completed with, but also that whoever ends up being overall responsible is going to be who somebody somewhere, some group somewhere is going to be chasing up after them for the next 10 years to find out whether or not they've actually done their recommendations. So I had a first pass at this based on, there was a mapping of boards and commissions that we did a while ago. So, but there's a few notes I just wanted to kind of highlight here as a introduction to it. So what I've done is assign at the recommendation level, each recommendation to a specific department, board or commission. And I've also put in a group that's responsible at the goal level. And you'll see that in a lot of cases, it's the same board responsible for the goal and the recommendations. Some of them are a little bit more complicated. What responsibility means in relation to this is making sure that the recommendation is acted on. It doesn't necessarily mean that that board or committee has to do the work. So I gave an example here around trails. There's a recommendation about building and maintaining trails and parking, right? I don't necessarily think that Kat will be out there with her trowel.
Well.
Maintaining a trail, but it's obviously the trails committee would be responsible for making sure that it got done.
Yep.
Right. And then
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea because in 2008, there were like 100 different people that had responsibility, which means no one took responsibility.
exactly. In my experience, many years of pain, it never works because everyone will just kind of go, well,
Yeah, right.
well, the converse is when it all goes really well, everyone wants to take credit for it. So, yeah.
Judith, do you see a structure here that might have an appendix that then sorts these things by responsible party? So
Yeah,
that
we can do that.
Makes it
Yeah.
easy to say, here's the piece for the Board of Selectmen, here's the piece for Trails Committee, et cetera, list all the things there in one place.
That's a really great idea because the other thing that this will help dictate is each board, commission, or committee will develop their future plans based on and incorporate the master plan into.
We hope. Yep.
Well, I think
That's
that's
the
what
idea.
we should promote it as such, and then specifically reach out to each board, committee, and commission and make sure that that's the role. That's what this is about. You have to incorporate this, not have to. It is why it's designed this way.
Right.
Because it's not just a person, it's a committee.
Mhm.
So, who knows who's going to be here tomorrow? So we need to know we have a structure beneath us
Mhm.
to carry it on.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. Yeah. And that's kind of really the third point here is that, whoever's assigned can involve as many different groups of people as they want, but they are still responsible for it.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's
And
go.
Kat can use her new army of associate members of the Trails Committee to be arms and legs for all of this stuff.
Okay, so I have put down here, so these are the land use goals, which if you remember are more work, often a lot of them are kind of referred to in other chapters, but so under connectivity, I've put, actually, you know what? Sorry, I'm gonna come back to that because let's do this first because that might make more sense. So housing. Overall responsibility for the goals. For goal 1, I've got Housing Opportunity Partnership Committee, which obviously Shopsy, yeah. So shout if these don't look right. And in actual fact, I've got Shopsy for most of these, Planning Board overall responsible for updating zoning. And then Shopsy for most of it. So apart from a couple of planning boards, it's basically Shopsy.
That makes sense. You know, there may be a few opportunities for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund Committee to kind of participate, but other than that, I would agree. It'll be mostly Shopsy who'll be the workhorse behind this section.
Okay, great. And what I was thinking here is if we feel comfortable tonight at this overall assignment of responsibility, then we can start to say, okay, Sarah and Tom, can you specifically take these recommendations to Shopsy for a final time and say, do you feel comfortable that you're going to be on the hook for this?
That makes sense.
I like
to
it.
me.
Okay, so economic development, downtown. Again, if in doubt, I made it up. EDC for the overall goal, and then specific responsibilities, either the planning board or the EDC. Lisa, I put down board of selectmen for a few here because I thought these might be more like the wastewater management might be. And I know I haven't changed it to select board. I have to change that.
Is gain approval from CSX something that we've already done also?
Not fully, I think. That we've more or less reached agreement, I think, but no, the paperwork, I'm not sure has been finalized. Maybe Lisa knows more than I do.
No, Sam, my understanding is it hasn't yet either. It's close. It's very close.
Okay.
And when we're going through these, or do we want to go through them again? I was thinking that we could have the ARPA funding in mind, and some of these goals may be able to use
That's a good thought. Yes.
ARPA funds for.
Yes.
So Mimi, if I may, so last night the board approved the charge for a committee, an ARPA working group committee. We did include in it, I know Mimi's aware because I kind of sort of volunteered her in a roundabout way last night, but we did add a member of the planning board, preferably a master plan member as well. So they'll take a look, and that, again, that was one of the things Sam had brought up is making sure that we include some of the goals in the master plan as we submit recommendations for the committee.
And Lisa, that's a good thought, because in fact, it would not be a huge task here to go through this list of recommendations and flag things that are obviously a possible candidate for this, and send that along to this new committee and say, here's something that you folks might consider.
Brilliant.
See how that fits with what other people are doing as well in terms of these ideas. A great food for thought here in terms of project potentials.
Who's leading that committee, Lisa?
So There, it's going to be made up of 7 members, Judith. There's a member of the advisory committee, 2 members of capital, 1 member of EDC, 1 member of planning board, and 2 citizens at large. The advertisement for the citizen positions is going to be going out tomorrow, as well as all the chairs of the committees are going to be getting, that I mentioned, are going to be getting a letter tomorrow as well, letting them know that, you know, to go ahead and discuss who they would like to sit. Our goal is to hopefully sit the committee in December so they can start their work.
Okay.
We could make it easy for them by giving, here's your list.
Yeah.
We could.
Here's a list we prepared earlier for you to think about.
That's right. The 1 meeting committee, job done.
Well, what better way to tie it together? I mean, seriously, that would be amazing to be able to do that, because that's what we've said all along is, you know, becomes get the plan integrated into people's actual, you know, month-on-month work.
Great idea.
Okay, so anyone see anything kind of out of sorts there?
So can I ask a question, Judith?
Yeah.
And you may have all discussed this prior, but at some point, is the plan to take some of these goals before the master plan is complete, like have the Economic Development Committee, Planning Board, you know, take a look at some of the objectives that we put in here and just make sure that that also is kind of in line with what they think and whether or not they may have additional suggestions?
I mean, our hope and understanding is that the reps on the master plan have been going back and iterating with their committees. So I have, for example, with Conservation Commission. I know Kristen has on with Recreation. Kat, you have.
Tom has with Shopsy, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Julie, I think has taken this, has looked at, is discussing this with EDC.
Yeah, I've speaking with people with EDC, and I just sent over the chapter you sent me yesterday, the revision, so that they can look at it again.
And I mean,
historical, so
I think from like the Board of Selectmen perspective, a lot of these are actually on our goals. Wouldn't you agree, Sam?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't anticipate that, you know, there's going to be any pushback at all, you know, from any of the boards and committees, but it again, it just might be it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another to actually see it on paper.
yeah,
And,
I think that would be, I mean, I think my thought would be a formal, you know, for Mimi to take it formally to the planning board, and for us, you know, maybe Mimi and I to come to the select board as well and say, look, here we are. I think that would be really good to be able to do that in the next month or two.
Yep.
Kat?
okay.
Quick question on 1.5 DBVD. I'm assuming that's supposed to be Downtown Village Business District. Is that acronym spelled out or identified earlier up in the writing?
That's not the right. That's changed. I thought I'd update this. I'd updated this to the downtown district. It looks like a couple of them I haven't.
Oh, okay.
I just copy them over. So yeah, that should be the downtown district vision now.
So Judith and Mimi, whenever you guys would like to come, you know, obviously to the board, just let us know and we'll make sure that it's put on the schedule, on the agenda.
Is there a specific party night? You know, do you have like wine? Or
Can it be earlier than the 11 o'clock slot?
Yeah,
So put it this way,
we got
Mimi, I think between Sam and I, we can agree that, you know, this will be one of the first things on the agenda.
we have some open slots after 11:30 p.m.
Yeah.
I know that's when the cheese and everything comes out, the cheese and crackers. So yeah, we would be happy to put you guys on and put you on early. I mean, obviously, again, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of discussion on this, but I think it's great to see all the work that the master plan committee has done and to actually like see it on paper now, not just hear about it. So I think it's just another great opportunity prior to, you know, putting the final draft out there for, you know, the public to be aware as well of you know, all of the great work that's being done here.
Okay, awesome. Mimi and I'll noodle on dates. What else have we got here? Oh, this is the villages. I threw in, so EDC here. I threw in a couple of DPWs as well, because I think DPWs would be responsible for the sidewalk network. Is that correct?
Yep, and maybe Public Works Planning Board,
Oh, is that,
sadly sort of moribund, but they should be doing this stuff.
So for sidewalks, would a plan go before Public Works Planning Board?
It should. The Public Works Planning Board was actually involved in the 2015 sidewalk study. So it was
Yeah.
overseeing it. So that's theoretical,
okay,
but public DPW drives most of that.
okay.
So I'm just, after last night, I'm trying to think of moving forward a better process than trees being marked for removal and people screaming. That people know ahead of time, or if there's a way to do sidewalks without removing all the trees, or are there new sidewalks that don't have to be all the concrete and curbing and that would meet ADA, or just a lot of things have been running through my head, and just concerned that if the DPW has complete control, they just get a plan and then start cutting down trees and away we go.
So Mimi, are you giving Sam homework to,
Yeah.
we like to
Sadly,
delegate.
I don't control the Public Works Planning Board. Wish I did, but they ought to drive that process, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, Mimi, about, you know, there's got to be, in this day and age, there's got to be some better technology on the root systems on trees and you know, than what we're doing. You know, Sam, maybe that's something that you and or the Public Works Planning Board could look into, is if the sidewalks that we're doing, I mean, we're really taking a look at them, even through ARPA, that, you know, maybe there's a better way to do it, and a better cost-effective way as well.
Right. Well, with all the advances in, you know, green technology and low impact development, I'm wondering if there's a better way to do sidewalks than
Good
cutting
question.
down all the trees and
Please.
putting up the big concrete thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know, Sam, how do we figure out a better process for sidewalks?
I don't know, but it's worth thinking about. And if we or someone can come up with a better process, then I think that gives us something to socialize and push for mechanisms to implement. And you're right. I mean, I sadly don't see it's coming from DPW necessarily, but maybe we can give them a push.
I don't want to be a spoiled sport, but as I think we all understand, there are certain requirements when one builds a sidewalk
Right,
that
right,
have to be met. So,
right. Well, certainly we want them to be, you know, ADA compliant, or what's the point? But does that mean that they have to, that they can't be a more environmentally sensitive type of sidewalk?
who knows?
Yeah, yes, they can. Because you
Yeah.
have to be aware that in anything that you put in that affects the drainage of water going into going back into the aquifers and stuff, if you put in a heart to heart surface, it's not absorbed into the ground. So we have to be cognizant of that also.
Right.
There's no question about that, but there are, we have to also keep in mind that if somebody wants to use, let's say, an electronic scooter for purposes of mobility, or a wheelchair of some kind, that there are certain types of hard surfaces that have to be used to make that happen. So you can't use sand, for example, and expect the wheelchair to sink into sand, things of that nature. I'm sure that's obvious to everybody, but I think I should say it probably.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So are there any pervious surfaces that would be acceptable, do you know, Bill?
I think probably the best way to do that is for me, if you would like, to check with the folks in Boston and see if in fact they would authorize other types of things. And don't forget, I mean, if there is something that's almost acceptable, I suspect the town could ask for a variance in that particular case, and it probably would be granted. Let's put it this way, there may be an assumption it would be granted. So it's, I mean, we're not, I don't want to make it sound as if this is, everything's got to happen in a specific fashion, and there are no compromises that can be made. I'm sure there are plenty, and we can all take a look at it. But putting a telephone pole in the middle of the goddamn sidewalk is probably not the right thing to do.
Or a tree.
I would agree with that.
Or a tree.
Or a
Yeah.
tree. Well, not right for the tree either.
No, it's not. Of course not. No. I mean, some trees grow, and for 100 years, the sidewalk is intruded upon. There's no question about that. But no, I mean, it's not something we want to do. The other problem that we tend to have when it comes to putting sidewalks in is where, in fact, the right-of-way is associated with it. Are there any stone walls? Are there any large, as you know, trees that are adjacent to it that would have to be taken down? All sorts of issues concerning that.
Right.
Had a discussion. No, I can't say we. I think I've had discussions with some concerning how one puts sidewalks or some other pedestrian way in among roads that were designed in the 18th century for cows. And of course, one way to do it is to take that large space the space that we have today that certainly doesn't even fit 2 SUVs, and have it and make it a one-way affair, and allow then a part of that road to be used for certain types of public access. That's very easy to do. In some cases, it may require only a few gallons of paint to make that happen. Although I've said that before. I guess that's probably not quite
I would
correct.
suspect that would garner more comments.
Yeah. Well, right. But my point is, there are plenty of
Paint's
places.
the easy part.
Yeah. The paint is probably no problem. But no, I mean, there are all sorts of issues concerning how one controls traffic in town, and the busyness of these particular streets and accesses to other types of, busy thoroughfares where people would like to then subsequently use some of our narrow roads back here as shortcuts to go other places. There are ways of dealing with those sorts of things, I think, thoughtfully, if in fact one took a look at the traffic patterns and where in fact one could use at least a small portion of that road in addition to, let's say, some areas immediately adjacent to it, to put in, let's say, some type of sidewalk or something of that nature. It would not only give us public access on foot or on bicycles or something else, but it would also potentially eliminate undesired traffic in some of these communities, these little residential areas we have here. Number 3, it could also potentially improve the flow of traffic for the residents within those areas, so they could get in and out of their domiciles, as the case may be. I know I'm taking, I'm pleading a case here, but I think my point is that putting additional either bike paths or sidewalks or something like that in can and potentially might have to include thoughts along the nature I've just described here, that somehow we have to address the vehicular traffic issues along with the sidewalks themselves.
And we're certainly not the first people to be concerned about this. There's an outfit called Deep Root that looks at conflicts between trees and sidewalks and traffic, et cetera. And there are other organizations out there as well that have thought about this. So I think that there's, again, a wealth of knowledge out there in the world that we could look at for some of these things. We've also just started the process for additional traffic study town-wide, which may give us some insights relative to, again, to you know, where the traffic is going. And this one is, I guess, aimed at truck exclusions, but I think that could well provide some data that would be helpful to look at how we think about traffic overall through town. So that could be an interesting process as well.
Good point. Let me get off my soapbox here for a second. I'll mute myself.
Back to you, Judith.
Okay. So that's the economic development. Open space, natural resources, recreation. I think these fall pretty kind of logically into Open Space Preservation Commission for the first goal. Trails Committee, got a nice little set there, Kat. Conservation Commission around managing open space with stakeholders in the community. And oh yeah, the wetland protection stormwater bylaws that's actually one where we're already working on that. So we're looking at updating the town's stormwater bylaw there. So that's Conservation Commission. Recycling, I put that one for you. Select board, Sam. Overall responsibility. Does that sound right?
DPW has been interested in that one as well, but certainly select board should be involved in that. I mean, we still haven't figured out recycling longer term, since we're now paying more to get rid of our recycle stuff than the stuff in the pit. So it's an ongoing problem.
And some of these, you know, where I've got kind of board at select board, DPW, you know, they could be somewhat interchangeable. Invasive species and native plants and pollinators, I think, is open space preservation, Mimi. I know Karen's not here today, but I know that was the ones that they were.
Yeah, they've taken the lead on that.
I just see the electric car charging stations in there for Debbie.
What?
Debbie was recommending the electric car charging stations, which there's a lot of money out there for that actually nowadays. So, I mean, I got to believe we can find money to do that.
Is there a specific goal in this section for that?
We just passed it here, yeah.
Yeah, to update the site plan bylaw to require those. I think that's where
it was.
So for
Okay,
any new
four.
projects that they would have to have a certain percentage of electrified spaces or something? Yeah.
Yep.
And then Rec Commission has got. So Kristen, I don't know, why did I put Rec Department? I guess I wasn't quite sure whether or not they'd all be Rec Commission or whether they'd be Rec Department. So, Kristen's still on.
Sorry,
Kristen?
my phone. Yeah, my phone was on mute. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
This was.
I mean, can it be both?
Has to be one or the other.
Yeah, I think you've got. I'm just looking at them now.
Why not do Rec Commission / department?
No,
You don't like that?
can't.
one person or one entity is responsible.
That's a tough one.
I mean, you can take a look at it, Kristen.
Yeah, could I
I'll
review
take
it with Tim?
Do you want to take a look at it and then we can talk about it? So I just can't, again, if in doubt, I made it up.
It raises a lot of interesting discussions in terms of what the scope of the Recreation Commission's responsibilities are. We've had many discussions about this over the last few years. So let me review it with Tim and Jen.
Okay,
and I'll
perfect.
just
No,
go
that'd
back
be
with you.
great. That'd be great. Circulation transportation. A lot of these I put in as select board because we don't have any, well, I don't believe there's any other committee that has responsibility for infrastructure, transportation. So most of this is Board of Selectmen. Oh, and the new pedestrian and bicycling committee, which is actually a recommendation to establish it. So
Yeah, we talked about doing that. I'm not quite sure why we haven't done it. I mean, I think there was interest in doing it. Maybe put that back on an agenda somewhere, Lisa.
and then the ability is the 88 historical ones. Or select board for for collaboration engagement with town government and the community. Community gathering space, select board, I think it's at that level. Some of this I put down capital planning commission because that's what the recommendation refers to anyway. Oh, Public Works Planning Board. Does that sound right, Sam, for that one?
Which one here?
This is the plan for and manage population development growth. I didn't even know we had a Public Works Planning Board, but I found it when I went through the website. I thought, oh, that would be a nice.
I'm on it, and we're a very quiet group.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. Not clear to me. I mean, that in some ways, that's something that I think the planning board certainly has a role and interest in.
Yeah, good try, Sam.
In Mimi's spare time, she can knock that one off.
Well, have a think about it, because if we're going to come to
Yeah.
the select board anyway, we can, talk about some of these. Emergency Planning Committee for the hazard mitigation plan, and resiliency.
I mean, is that the committee's name? I can't remember.
Pardon?
Emergency planning. Didn't ring a bell.
There is one.
There is a group. I just didn't remember the name.
I think that's what it's called.
It is. It's a Southbury Emergency Planning Committee. Yes, it is.
Okay, that is.
Okay.
Is that like out of the police and fire department or something?
It is. It's run out of the fire department and it's got,
A zillion members.
it has, including, National Grid representatives and whatnot. It's a pretty large group. A lot of the CERT members from the emergency response team are on it as well. So,
According to the website, our former town council is on it.
well, I think that needs to be changed.
Possibly.
But a lot of these recommendations are the ones that came from the hazard mitigation plan and the preparedness plans.
Yep.
And then schools is all school committee.
And Ms. Braccio is on there twice. In fact, she holds 2 seats on that, according to the town website.
Oh, well, I'm on the SEMA and the SEPC. I'm on both of those actually. So, that's interesting. I am on there twice, Sam.
The SEPC on the town website, yeah, you're listed twice.
No, I must be special in somebody's eyes.
Two votes, that's good. And your
Okay,
significant other as well.
does this look like a
Family business.
does this look like a reasonable first pass then?
This is great.
Yeah,
I mean, the first
Absolutely,
pass is
Judith.
always the hard one, but much easier to edit than create. So this is wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. That's me. I'm done. No more talking.
Good job, Judith.
Excellent.
Absolutely. Good job.
Our primary motive power here.
Sorry?
Our primary motive power. You and Sarah have been the engine of the process here, I think, to keep the vehicle moving.
Judith is definitely the lead.
sorry, I'm thinking. I'm wondering if, and I don't know where it would go, and which is why I'm trying to figure this out. Maybe under resiliency or something, do we want to have a goal to create a noise bylaw, since that's something that we're working on?
I think that's good to include. I'm not sure where I'd put it. Maybe resiliency doesn't sound quite right. I don't know where
No.
else to go though. But
Where would that go?
Community, historic, and cultural resources? I don't know.
Is that where the
I think so.
lighting bylaw ended up in that chapter?
I don't
There's
think-
some mention of it somewhere, I think.
Of the lighting bylaw?
I think so. Did I
Oh.
see that? I thought that was captured. I went looking for it and I thought I had seen some mention of it.
It would be good to include, actually.
Yeah.
Another one we
As
can
something
check
that
off.
we've already done?
Check off. That's right. I like those things.
I know, we're ahead of the game.
So maybe think about where
Yeah,
we can drop
good to
that
find a
one.
home for that one.
What's
Yeah.
what's the like underlying driver to like reduce the, I don't remember a lighting one.
It just passed at a town meeting in the spring
Oh,
to bring our lighting bylaw into compliance with the Dark Skies Initiative,
Oh,
which is a public health initiative, as is the noise bylaw. So I don't know if it would go under
Yeah.
like sense of community or
Where's public health in here? Actually, I was trying to, interesting. I mean, our Board of Health has actually made huge progress recently here. And I mean, youth and family services as well, in terms of what I think of as public health initiatives kind of things. I think it'd be great to reinforce those as well here somewhere. And the noise bylaw, lighting bylaw would fit certainly within
I
the
don't know,
public
are
health
those
spectrum.
public services? Is public health public services?
Yep, I think so.
I do too.
that's in
Oh,
yours.
okay.
I'll add that. Good point. Because I think, again, they've been doing great work, and I think that good things have happened there, and it's great to include that, and it is important.
Okay, I'll make a note. Come back to that one.
Oh, and so the next thing on the agenda was discuss the status of updated census data, but I think Sarah already spoke to that we have a signed contract and some of the data has already come in and she'll start sending it out to us, so that check that off the agenda.
Yep.
And then trying to figure out how to put this final plan together. Like, I don't know if we should like assign certain chapters as homework and then the next meeting, we've all read them and can comment on them, or what's the best way to handle this in our little Brady Bunch squares?
I know Judith has sort of been organizing the structural process here. Judith, do you have any thoughts on what the right next step is?
I think we need just a directive. Mimi, tell us what we should be doing. Make some assignments.
Oh, so like the next meeting, read these chapters and have comments? Is that what you want?
Sure, why not? Sure.
So, all right, then what chapters do you think, Judith? Housing, I think that's pretty much
Yeah, I mean,
ready to go.
what I would ask is, because we've got to a point now where it's if people can read them and come back with specific comments, or even send comments to me for the meeting, rather than trying to edit individual documents, because otherwise the version control becomes a bit of a nightmare. So I think the chapters that are going to be, I'll create a new folder to put the most recent ones in tomorrow. I think the chapters that are most kind of close to being finished are open space, circulation and transportation, and
Housing?
say again, maybe?
Housing?
Housing, yeah. So why don't we say, let's everyone look at those as their homework assignment. And then then that'll give Sam time to finish off the school's bit of public services. It'll give Julie the chance to go back and look at the next iteration of, because she and I have kind of worked on, we're on our second draft of that. Maybe you're still waiting for some data for land use, aren't you? So that's next. And then,
So that chapter may shrink because there was a huge thing on a detailed build out that they did that I don't think that we're going to get this time.
Yeah. So let's start with those three, because I think that'll be
Judith,
Okay, so
just quickly, I've already started the version you sent around the other day, doing just minor edits. So can I just send those to you tonight, and then I won't mess up with version control moving forward.
okay. Perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
So Judith, when do you want us to have our comments to you by? I would assume before the meeting, so you have ample time
That
to.
would be great. Yeah, because then I can kind of put it all together and summarize it. How about
the next meeting is December 15th.
What about the 8th? That's roughly a week before. And
that would be great. Yeah.
okay. Okay, thank you.
So open space, natural resources and recreation chapter, circulation and transportation and housing.
Yeah.
And comments by. Very good. And public comment. Well, we have an attendee.
Oh, actually, Julie, and I keep trying to bring her back over, so I don't know if there's like a computer thing that's going on. Julie.
Oh, there she is.
Stuff, right? Okay.
So we have no public. Approval of minutes from September 22nd. Has everyone had a chance to go over them?
I did.
Was I at that meeting?
On September 22nd? I think so. It was the last one that
Oh,
you weren't at,
oh, okay,
but we didn't have a quorum, so.
right. And I must have looked at them if it's, yes, I think I sent. I don't think, yes, I'm fine. I don't think I had anything. Hey,
So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes from September 22nd, 2021?
So move.
And a second?
Second?
Actually, Judith was not at that meeting.
No, she wasn't.
Or she
I went
wasn't?
back. No.
But she still likes the minutes.
I still what?
So a roll call vote. Stivers,
Aye.
Demaria.
I'm a non-voting member ad hoc.
Oh, okay. That's right. Sorry about that.
Yep.
But if you were vote,
Signs.
you'd vote in favor.
I would vote for them. I saw them.
She does great minutes. Signs,
Aye.
Watson,
I wasn't there though. No, I have to abstain if I'm not there.
You actually
don't-
can vote.
You can
You
still
can.
vote on them.
but
Yep.
that's okay.
but you can abstain if you want. No pressure.
I'll abstain. I'll abstain.
Braccio,
Aye.
McKee,
I,
McNauskis,
Aye.
Connolly,
On mute.
Julie. All right, I think we still have a quorum. Very good. And our next meeting is December 15th. Does that work for everybody still?
Actually, I've just looked at my calendar. I'm not here. Sorry. I'm in Bermuda.
Ah,
Oh,
Wow.
terrible, terrible.
they've got internet in Bermuda. Come on. Just kidding.
Right. Don't forget to take your wallet.
Actually, I'm on a cruise ship in Bermuda.
Oh, okay.
I know.
Whoa.
But my first ever cruise. My friend Nicola has persuaded me to go. I'm like,
You're going just to Bermuda and back? Is that it? Or to the islands?
it's my taster cruise.
so from New York?
Yeah, from New York. Yeah.
Mhm.
So do we want to move the date?
What about the 8th? Oh, no.
The 8th. Yeah, I
Could
can
do.
do.
Could do it too.
So that'll be in 3 weeks, 3
So-
weeks to do 3 chapters, and then we'll have to move the date to read the chapters up.
To the first, that's right.
To the
yeah.
first, yep.
Well,
Will
it's
that
gonna
work?
It's going to take the same amount of time whichever week I do it, so. doesn't really matter.
Gosh.
So do we want to do that? Do we want to move it up?
If that's okay, that would be great.
Yep.
Sure.
Moving it for
Yeah?
me.
Yep.
Actually, that
Everyone
will,
else in agreement? Does that work?
Yeah. Is it a 7 o'clock start?
Yeah. Does that work?
Yeah, I was just putting it in my calendar.
Very good.
thank you.
Judith,
you
the
all very
Swizzle
much.
Inn.
Huh?
Thank
Say,
you.
Judith, don't forget to visit the Swizzle Inn.
The Swizzle Inn. Oh, that sounds
Yeah,
fun.
it's called the Swizzle Inn Stagger Out. That's the,
That's a local cultural
I've
site.
never been, I've been to
Like to
Bermuda
play.
several times and have never been to the Swizzle Inn.
oh, you got to do it.
Okay.
We'll expect a report.
She won't remember.
Thank you, you guys.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you,
need
Mimi,
a
do we
motion
need to,
adjourn.
Mimi, do we have to make a motion to
Oh,
Oh,
adjourn?
we need to
You
make a
do.
motion to adjourn. Thank
So
you,
moved.
Lisa.
So move.
Second,
And second, and a roll call again. Stivers,
Enthusiastic eye.
Signs,
All right.
Watson,
Yes.
Braccio,
aye.
McKee,
Aye.
McNoskis. Joyce?
Yes, aye.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And Connolly? Julie?
What happened to Julie?
Really?
And Latrell, yes. So
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
happy